I always have a hard time deciding what I'm going to talk about because I have so many things going on in my head at once. Um, I want to talk about right now a recent exchange I had with Robert Spencer, who runs Jihad Watch. And I suppose my first email was a little bit more, um, oh, let's see, what's the thing? Colloquial, in the sense that, well, here's what I said. I was giving him a tip, not a big, breaking news tip or anything, but just an idea for a news story for Jihad Watch. And I had said about how I would have loved to have written for them, or even for Front Page Magazine. Jihad Watch and Front Page Magazine, those are all under the umbrella of the David Horowitz, the Freedom Center, or that organization. And I made a remark in the email to Robert Spencer that I've tried to write for Front Page Magazine and would have liked to, and would like to write for Jihad Watch, but as far as like Daniel Greenfield over at Front Page Magazine was concerned, he was kind of like a tomcat in heat. He was always marking his territory, and nobody else was going to get in there to write. Now, maybe that sounded really offensive, and you know what? If it did, I really don't care, because I'm tired of talking and writing the way that people want me to talk and to write. Nobody else seems to do it, so why should I? I'm proud of everything I've written, and I think I've written very well. I don't think it's wrong to be proud of a talent that God gave me. It's the only talent God gave me, but thanks to the internet and thanks to people who want to use my talents and not pay me for them, when I have to go around and, literally get sick. When I'm under a lot of stress, I can get sick with diverticulitis or other issues, irritable bowel, TMI, I know, but those are the things that happen as a caregiver. If I don't have enough money to get my mother's medicine, yet I have like one of the biggest stories on the internet, and everybody's talking about it, and everybody's sharing it, and everybody's liking it, and 500 people are talking here or there. It just gets crazy. So, and you're thinking, I'm doing all of this for free. If you go to my website, which is listed under susandharris.com, I haven't changed the name of it yet, but if you go to my website, you'll read this long manifesto. It's not really a manifesto, but it's a long thing of me bitching about a lot of conservative websites. So if you'd like to know a little bit of something about one of the conservative websites that you read that you don't know something about, it might be on there. Because let me tell you, I can tell you a lot about the people behind most of the conservative websites, and it's not good. It's not good. I've tried to write for, a lot of them are just like, ignore you completely. I mean, you could be the best writer in the whole world, but they got their own little clique. And it's like being in high school, and that clique doesn't want you in there, and we already have, we only hire 25-year-olds, go somewhere else, and there's a lot of classism that's still a problem, and there is a lot of I believe age discrimination as well, and you'll notice a trend for a lot of hot young blondes coming out of the conservative movement. Maybe they want to put on their bikinis and stick their pistols in their bikinis or something like that. Just like a local policewoman here. I don't know that she's conservative. I don't know anything about her views, but along those lines, the whole, the old G. Gordon Liddy calendar girl lines, where when did the conservative movement turn into a bunch of freaking rednecks with shotguns and beer? Oh, we voted for Trump. Now, I'm a Trump supporter, but after writing for 10 years on the internet, I just really feel like I've been casting pearls before swine. There are a lot of people that get it. There are people that contact me with very intelligent comments and or very thankful comments saying, oh, I'm so glad you wrote this article. It really, expresses everything I've been feeling and that kind of thing. But, I think the majority of them are just like, well, that was pretty good. I read the first paragraph. Now I'm going to leave a comment, I'm really disappointed in conservatives. That's what I'm disappointed in. Most of all, I'm disappointed that conservatives rolled over on their belly to, is that the phrase? To let libertarianism take over. There was this giant vacuum created after the 60s when everybody said, oh, we're not going to be like our grandmothers and grandfathers and mothers or fathers, and we're going to drop God, and we're going to drop religion, and we're going to follow transcendental meditation or the whole reincarnation thing, and then karma became good, became popular, everything came about karma. And then people had their auras, and then people started buying little stones and crystals, and then we went right down smack dab into paganism again. Well, forget that. Years ago, my first formal boyfriend was a libertarian, and at the time I didn't know really what that was. But I started to notice there were some problems, and with what I was looking for in a normal human, or what I had ever been exposed to before. And at some point I said to him, and I remember it very distinctly, do you believe in God? And he stopped and thought for a minute, and I'm like, I've never met anybody like this before. Those were in the old days, when America was still America. And, but he was already getting brainwashed, I believe mostly from his older brother, who was kind of a nut job anyway. And he said, no, I think I'm an agnostic. And, now, after many years, I realize that when people say that, that means that they're just stupid. They're really just stupid. They don't understand anything about the Bible. They've probably never read the Bible. They don't know anything theological that they could discuss concerning God, Jesus Christ, the divinity. And they probably haven't put that much time or thought into it. They've probably put more time and thought into, do I really believe in God? Well, I can't see God. I can't feel God. And so they come up with this whole yada, yada, yada. I believe that there's a creator. I believe that they might not just be stupid. Maybe they're just stupid. I don't know how else to put it. But they just really haven't taken the time, maybe, to look into it. So they say they're agnostic, and then that just means that they think that there's some sort of something there, but they don't know. And so it's just some big excuse to say that they don't know really what the hell is going on, and either they don't care or they're really atheists, but they're just holding on by a thread. So, and that was my first introduction to people like that. I didn't know they existed before that. Obviously, that relationship didn't work out well. And so he was also into the libertarian thing. And I thought, pat him on the head, move him along, whatever. He'll grow out of it. But he never grew out of it. He just became more and more and more into this crazy doctrine. Now, we actually stayed friends for many years, and I didn't hold it against him. And I never looked into I never seriously started to consider libertarianism or what it was doing to this country until years later. And now, looking back, I think that libertarianism has been one of the major things that has helped destroy America. Why? Because it took out all of the morality. You can't legislate morality. Well, yeah, we can, and yes, we have to. You know, the old, it doesn't matter what you do, just as long as you don't do it in the street and frighten the horses. That's gone by the wayside. But we do have to make it a law so that people don't do it in the street and frighten the horses, okay? I forgot who originally said that, but my point here, Ayn Rand, if you look up her old interview with, what was it, Chris Wallace? I'd have to look that up, but it's the black and white interview. And then there's another interview with Phil Donahue. I don't believe in God. You know, her whole atheist thing, where for once in his life, Phil Donahue actually looks like the good guy and the smart one. But Ayn Rand was probably one of the most evil people that's ever existed on Earth. Before the 60s, you know, I mean, Whittaker Chambers had a good rebuttal to what he thought of Ayn Rand. After the 60s, or before the 60s, everything that she was doing was considered a cult, basically. She had a lot of people hanging around her house. There was a lot of weird shit going on, okay? Excuse me language. And this is all true. And I'm really well read on this, even though I don't sound it. But after that, when America lost its way after the 60s and the Beatles were going to the Himalayas and saying, oh, look, we've discovered Nirvana and we've brought it back to you poor plebeians. Well, after that, Ayn Rand's libertarianism caught on because people wanted to sweep all their morals under the rug and still be able to somehow cling to capitalism and the basics of what form our republic. They said, well, we can't really get rid of the basics, the framework of what made the American Republic and capitalism that sustains it, but we want to get rid of all that moral stuff, you know. And for a while, William F. Buckley Jr. and Russell Kirk and Whittaker Chambers and Brett Bozell and people like that. We almost got Goldwater into office, but we didn't. But they still helped sustain the modern conservative movement long enough to get a God-fearing, wonderful man like Ronald Reagan into office. But then after that, it all slid back down. It was like you're trying to get up the hill, and then all of a sudden, boom, you thought you made it, and you didn't. And everything went to hell. The next thing you know, George W. Bush was talking about a new world order. And after that, we got Bill Clinton, who didn't even pay attention to the first bombing of the World Trade Centers. I mean, Bill Clinton was a horror. A horror. Janet Reno, all that stuff that we lived through. Bill Clinton with his using his power to influence a young woman who was an intern to have oral sex under his desk as he's making decisions about sending troops, American lives, into harm's way. Meanwhile, he's raped other women, allegedly, but we know that he lied to our faces about what he was doing with Monica Lewinsky in office, not 12 years ago, okay? And anyway, and someone who was in a subordinate position to him. So, I mean, this was just all horrors. And then by the time Clinton and, what was her name? The lady that, Jamie Gorelick, she stopped all the agencies with her memos from talking to each other, so they couldn't share intelligence information, which eventually led to 9/11. And no, it wasn't like an inside job, and George Cheney is not like an evil man that helped plan 9/11. But there was a lot of bad stuff going on for 8 years in the Clinton administration that led to 9/11. Nobody puts the blame where it goes. You know, it's just like people remember Vietnam and they start talking about Nixon, and you're like, let's see, Lyndon Baines Johnson. Does that ring a bell to you? Oh my God. I don't know. The world's just gone nuts. Libertarianism, anyway. It filled this void so that people could say, well, it's okay to smoke marijuana. We don't care. It's okay for women to sell their bodies for sex. That's up to them. That empowers them. It's a wonderful thing. Whatever, right? And so these are your libertarians. And a lot of them were Jews, right? And they could all of a sudden come along, and the Jews and the secular Christians, and they could get along, the secular Jews and the secular Christians could come along and say, we agree on libertarianism. We're libertarians. And it sounds great because there's the Statue of Liberty and she's holding a torch, and it's still wonderful. And that sounds really simplistic, but inferring that libertarianism with the word liberty in it is somehow something wonderful really does work on the psyche. And I met lots of people who were really conservatives who decided, this is in the last few years, who decided to start calling themselves libertarians. But they didn't really know why, and they didn't know what a libertarian was. But they thought that it sounded much better than conservative, and they thought it sounded better than those nasty old Republicans that weren't doing the right thing that they were elected to do and that they wanted them to do, so they started to call themselves libertarians. Now, one of the people that led this was, after I believe she posted pictures of Muhammad on the whole Draw the Muhammad cartoon or something, and Pamela Geller started this. And she was seen as some sort of hero among conservatives for doing this. Well, you know, was she? I mean, what has she accomplished? She stuck her neck out, obviously, a lot. You know, I do realize that people put themselves at risk of something, especially her having some money for protection and a husband, and at least up until 2007, I think, when she got divorced. But I don't know. She had this website, Atlas Shrugged, and she even posted some of my articles occasionally through the years. But again, we couldn't get anywhere. We couldn't stop the spread of Islam. We couldn't stop the spread of radical Islam because there was no Jesus Christ in there. Libertarians took Jesus Christ, they rolled him in a blanket, and they stuck him behind the barn. And they said, well, we're still doing everything right. We just put Jesus Christ behind the barn in a blanket. But it's going to be okay. You can't do that. And you can't all of a sudden take the morals that were given to us in the Bible and say they're okay. Like homosexuality and cross-dressing. No, they are wrong. And yeah, even the Muslims got that part right. God help us. We don't believe in killing people for it because we're all sinners, but it's wrong. Log cabin Republicans, have you seen? I forgot, was it Cliff Kincaid, or I believe, is that his name? Who showed a YouTube video of the Log Cabin Republicans in a gay pride parade. I mean, it was disgusting. So I send this email to Robert Spencer, and I say, hey, here's an idea for an article. I make a remark about I can't get past Daniel Greenfield because of all his spraying like a tomcat and keeping his territory protected. And then I look up and I was like, oh, I probably knew this at one time. I'm sure I did. I've been around this fishbowl of the internet many times. And see that he helped the Stop Islamization of America. He helped form that with Pamela Geller, that organization, and he wrote a book with her. And then I'm like, oh, geez, he's all into that Pamela Geller shit, you know? So then I'm like, oh, forget it. I sent him back another one, and I said, oh, you're into the whole Pamela Geller. And Pamela Geller, what does she do? She goes and she gets the creepy plastic surgery. And I'm not just holding this against her. I think it's wrong for all the women that have had it. Megyn Kelly, Dana Perino, all the women on Fox News. Laura Ingraham, did you see what Laura Ingraham did to herself? She doesn't even look like herself anymore. She went over and she adopted 3 children from like third world countries because she can't. I know everybody says it's so hard to adopt here in America, so they don't. So they go somewhere else and get some cheap kids from Cambodia or something, and then they put them all in the family picture, you know, and here's my kids. And then she goes and Laura Ingraham gets this plastic surgery. She's had, I can't stand to look at this. It's like Michael Jackson with his nose taped on, but she's had the inside of the top lip cut off, scraped out like a pumpkin at Halloween time, so that you can always see her top teeth when she's talking. Now, I've known Laura Ingraham since about day one, and she never looked like that, and it's scary. And the rest of her face, she doesn't even look like herself. And there's so many women like that, and even that aren't in these women that aren't in news. These women that have been on with Megyn Kelly lately, Linda Carter and Melissa Gilbert, these left progressive, total freaking airheads that Megyn Kelly keeps having these women on to kiss her ass. And then she sits there and she says, oh, you look so good for your age. And they're all like, oh, they do. They look so good for their age. No, they've been cut. They go into the hospital and they have themselves cut and things pulled back. They get injections that can cause infections. They go under anesthesia and have dangerous operations. And at some point, America's got to have a conversation about this. I'll do a separate video on it. But I said to Robert Spencer, I said, you're in with that whole Pamela Geller who's had her face reconstructed, and she's hanging out with Milo, I can never say his last name yet, Yiannopoulos, the fake conservative homosexual guy with his pink nail polish and his, high heels or whatever. All of a sudden, Pamela Geller's like, this is the kind of conservative we need. Well, she's not conservative. She's a libertarian, so she doesn't have a problem with what Milo wants to stick in his rectum, okay? If we're going to be serious about this, homosexuals are sticking things into their rectum against delicate membrane where you're not supposed. If you've ever been sick, I've had diverticulitis and been very sick, and to think about people sticking things in their rectum, no matter what it is, it disgusts me horribly. It's one reason the Bible says not to do it. Well, Pamela Geller just gone freaking nuts. Has her whole face redone and her big Botox lips. Starts hanging out with Milo, having sexy pictures taken with him, going into the drag queen nightclubs in, I don't know, Chelsea or what's that place in New York City? I've been there. Huh. Anyway, and you go in there. They're going in there to cause a commotion. And she's got her big pink lips on Milo, kissing him. And he's got his sunglasses on, looking like super cool homo, right? On conservative. They're all real. That's not the Conservative Party. That's not the party of Buckley. That's not the party of Russell Kirk. That's not the party of Phyllis Schlafly. It's not the party of Jerry Falwell. I'm not afraid to say the name Jerry Falwell. I love Jerry Falwell, and I love the moral majority. I saw Jerry Falwell here, where I live, in person. He went out to ask the homosexual that was picketing him out front if he could please come in and listen to him and just talk. And just be nice about it. The guy wouldn't. This is just crazy. Anyway, Robert Spencer sends me back the, who the hell are you and why are you so full of hatred and anger and, oh my God, you must be a horrible person. Well, I'm thinking he really goes over the top with his answer to me. And it's funny because I say, look, after 10 years, I finally got a response. Nobody gave a hoot to talk to me before, but yeehaw, there you are. I pissed you off and you answered. And, well, then I find a whole bunch of pictures of, he and Pamela Geller together. Nice one on my website with her sitting in his lap. Pamela Geller, 60 years old and running around acting like she's 18 and hanging out with the gay guy and taking sexy pics. And I don't know who she's got something going with, but I'll tell you one thing: the man that I've just mentioned, Robert Spencer. I mean, he'll just go down to the mat for her. I'm not sure what he thought was so horrible about what I said. Just saying that, I don't think people having plastic surgery is right. I think it's immoral. I think it goes back to the Bible quotations about in the end times, people will be lovers of themselves. There's also warnings in the Bible about cutting on yourself or marking your skin, and that all falls under this narcissism that people have. This Robert Spencer, he called me a narcissist. I can't remember why. I don't know why he called me a narcissist. He doesn't know me. I've dedicated my life for the last, I don't know how many years, to taking care of my sick parents or aging parents who eventually became sick. And I've sacrificed everything for that. I'm not a narcissist. But I am going to start saying things the way I see them. And if that's offensive, maybe we better be offensive, because you know what? Whatever Robert Spencer's been doing, whatever Pamela Geller's been doing, whatever most of the conservative websites on the internet have been doing, you failed. Most of us are living in sanctuary cities. Most of us are surrounded by Islam. Most of us are surrounded by progressives. And the ones that aren't are in little teeny towns across the middle of America where there's hardly any work, no hope of going to school. We're bringing in people from third world countries that are getting scholarships or are being brought in to go to Harvard and Yale that aren't nearly as ambitious or smart as half of the people walking around in the poorer sections of the United States of America, whether it be on the streets of Detroit or in Appalachia. Those people aren't getting fast-tracked into Yale and Harvard and University of Berkeley, California. No, they're not. The country's a mess. Something went wrong. You guys failed. You can say bad things back to me all you want. And by the way, Robert Spencer, take a look at yourself in the mirror. You're the one that's full of hate. Really? Is that the best you can do? I mean, it's like a first grade insult. I would think you'd be able to do better than that. Just because I'm against homosexuality, just because I'm against people who go and have plastic surgery, which is hedonistic and narcissistic, and needs to be addressed in America, because I think it has fallen under the form of mental illness as well. It's really gone over the top. Did you ever see Judge Janine raise her arms and you can see where they've sliced underneath and cut off the flab? I mean, it just gets too gross. The majority of the population is aging and over 50 now, or will be soon. And we're still worshiping young people. We're still worshiping youth. We can't let ourselves get older on TV. We have to have slices down in front of our ears and our skin pulled back and our eyes pulled back and our chin and just forget the eyelids because they're gonna droop. So you might as well cut them out. So you sit there like this most of the time, and everybody gets that funny, crypt keeper look. Or a reptilian kind of look, Scary looking. So I've covered a lot of things in this. But it's just Robert Spencer. That's how it started out. I went to send him an email, and I thought, what the hell am I doing? I'm not going to write anymore. I thought I'd give other people some ideas on articles. Here's a good article and ending. This is an article by Sylvia Thompson, a black conservative writer whose aim is to counter the liberal spin on issues pertaining to race and culture. She's written a lot in Renew America, where I've written too. And Renew America, one of the best websites on the internet, okay? Because they let people write what they want. Poor Sylvia Thompson, a black conservative woman. Nobody believed she was really a black conservative woman. There's even a thing on Snopes.com where somebody challenged whether she even really existed. Crazy. But if you go to Renew America, Sylvia Thompson has an article, and it's not a new article, and good articles don't have to be new articles. This is from 2013, and here is the title. No, we are not all libertarians. She says, in response to an article posted earlier this year, written by Jacob Perry for the Conservative Intelligence Briefing blog, I penned the following statement. Perry's article is titled, We're all libertarians now. I say resoundingly, no, we are not. As a conservative Christian, I oppose libertarianism and conclude that it is impractical, primarily because it is a godless theology. That's what she says. So I'm going to stop quoting her right now and say, that's the obvious part of what's wrong with libertarianism. You can't hide Jesus in a blanket behind the barn and then pretend you're a conservative. You can't be Pamela Geller carving up your face at 60 years old, pretending you're 18 and run off and have pictures in drag bars with a homosexual guy who considers himself a conservative and say, look at us, we're all conservatives. Why doesn't everybody jump on the conservative Judeo-Christian train, Supposedly Geller does believe in God or something. I don't know. Like my first boyfriend. I don't know. To continue what Ms. Thompson says, she says, as Mr. Perry indicated in his article, libertarians hold that moral issues have no place in governing but should be left to the church. That is not, however, the position of the founders of the United States. They based the Constitution upon Judeo-Christian principles, and that's a historical fact. Without those principles, the Constitution is an unworkable tool. As some of the founders so aptly acknowledged in their writings, in a similar vein, capitalism, devoid of Judeo-Christian underpinnings, is as unworkable as socialism. The Constitution was not written for a godless people. So look up that article. I'll try to put a link to it below here by Sylvia Thompson. I'm looking at a picture of you. God bless you, Sylvia. I wish I could meet you in person. And she's just wonderful. And anyway, I'm not going to hold back with criticizing. Is there a place we're not supposed to go with criticizing people's? No, I'm going to say, don't do the plastic surgery. It's sick, it's wrong, and it's against God. You know what else is against God, since I'm having this stream of consciousness thing? And all this pedophilia and stuff has been in the news. Have you seen this latest Picasso that's out there? That's bringing in $1 million or something. Probably if you type in Picasso on Google, it'll be the first thing that comes up. But it's an underage girl, completely naked. And they just talk about how much money it's selling for. Nobody talks about the fact that it's pedophilia. Picasso was one sick dude. I don't care if it was his rose period or his blue period, but this picture is obviously from his pedo period. What a rotten bunch of culture we're in right now. And yes, Robert Spencer, getting your face carved up is wrong. And yes, Robert Spencer, homosexuality is wrong. And yes, Robert Spencer, there's a whole bunch of things wrong in this world right now, and I am not going to be silent about them anymore.